Yes, I did. Well, I was going to say I did watch this. I did listen to it while I was doing a bit of painting, and and I did walk back to the computer and make some timestamp references because yeah, I do enjoy Ben's videos. They are on the whole quite entertaining. They're not informative, of course, but they are entertaining. Now, this is from his latest one. He's 4105. And someone's asked him why he doesn't have a debate with me. And Neil Peel said he was going to rally the troops, and you know, he was going to get a panel together, and I was going to go on there. But it hasn't happened, of course, because they're all cowering under their PC tables. Marcus Allen and Scott Henderson, of course, would be crushed within seconds. And I think Ben realises as well, because his last response video to me with regard to moon landings was, yeah, yeah, he was all over the place. And I think later on in this video, he reads out a comment that might have been by me, where I said that he spent the last couple of hours or whatever it was with his response video debunking himself and his pals. And he said, "Oh, I don't remember that." I'll see if I can find that clip. I don't think I made a timestamp for it, but if I can be bothered just to flick through it, I'll see if I can find it. But basically what he doesn't remember is that he couldn't explain why Marcus Allen says that Werner von Braun and co with the Germans had got to the moon. He was all over the place with that. He said the image in the window of the lunar module was obviously a graticule because you could see the measurements on it. He said the flag wasn't wet. And he also said, "Oh well, they didn't use the same rover for all of the same footage for you know, all of the Apollo lunar rover stuff. They didn't use the same rover." I think he did a pretty good job of debunking himself and his mate Scott Henderson. So I'll see if I can find that clip a little bit later on. But anyway, here's what he says about not having a chat with me.
Third reply to Steve mumbling. I don't think I have time to go into all this. And a lot of people take part in this. Steve mumbling, Neil Peel, who actually was the producer of the video. Well, there's quite a few other people. And Stephen Neal, basically. Professor Fez is here. Neptune Returns. Okay, let's have a look. John Barrett says, maybe you should do a live showdown one time. I did have this idea, actually, having a live debate with Steve, and I've now ruled it out. I think Steve has now come to, I don't like...
logical, I think, is the word he's looking for.
Some of the things he says. The woodchipper comment was really awful. Dangerous Dan says, maybe they should get a room. They're always flirting with each other. Honestly... Well, if he was the opposite sex, you could say that. You know, I'm not gay or anything. Yeah, bless them.
Yeah, I think if you were the opposite sex, you'd probably be a little bit bouncy for me, Ben.
It's John Barry. Neil Peel says, somebody addressing me. I think Scott is up for an online recorded debate again with Mr. Alright. This was a month ago. I think things have changed since then.
Yes, I think they have too, and that is because the participants have watched one or two of my videos, and they know the sort of things I'm going to be asking them, and they know they are going to be shown to be full of BS very, very quickly. That's why it's no longer going to happen. They're all cowering under their PC tables. But you know, they're going to apparently he's going to do they're going to be doing another Apollo Detectives video. So as the Apollo moon landings weren't faked, it's going to be very easy to jump all over that and show them to be talking out of their backsides, which is normally the case when they start talking about that sort of stuff. Ben said he's not going to do any more response videos with regard to the Apollo moon landings to me, for the same reason. He made a complete hash of the last one, and if you watch it, you'll see what I mean. I might even leave a link to that below. And I think I've mentioned it earlier, he ended up debunking himself and his pals. He says And he actually says on here that he doesn't remember doing that, but of course, you know, I think he's got a selective memory. Because he said, oh, you know, the image of the lunar module window is definitely a graticule. You can see the measurements on it. The Apollo 17 flag is obviously not wet, and the lunar rover. It wasn't the same lunar rover used for filming all of the Apollo missions. So he was doing a pretty good job of debunking Scott Henderson. Okay, is there any more of this?
Now, how do I know the Apollo 17 flag was made to canvas? Oh,
yeah, okay. But anyway, he made another comment about the. I did a video about a presentation that Ben did regarding one of the items he mentioned in there was, or one of the stories that he mentioned in there was the Solway Spaceman. The image of the little girl. And actually, in this video, he just says, when I say, you know, it's obviously faked, he says, no, it isn't. That's Ben's logical argument. He's talking about logical arguments in this video. Yes, he just said, no, it isn't. And that was it, really. I think he might have said what about the Men in Black? Well, what you've got to bear in mind is that, you know, we only have the guy that took the photographs word for it that the Men in Black existed. And we only have, as far as I know, we don't have a report from Kodak. We only have the guy that took the pictures word for it that Kodak said that the negative, whatever was on the negative, was on the negative. It wasn't a double exposure or anything like that. I'd probably question that. And if we go to the next clip, I'll show you why. It's going off at a bit of a tangent, but I think it's worth just showing this next clip of something that I never noticed, on the when I first did the Solway Spaceman. When I first had a look at it to see what I thought of it, I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it until afterwards. So I'm just going to point out something that I didn't notice in the original, or point out in the original video. Okay, so I can't believe I didn't notice this before, but we only have the guy that took the photographs word for it that there was a report from Kodak saying that it was not a doctored image. We only have the guy's word for it that it's he was visited by the Men in Black. Okay, so what he's saying is that there's a spaceman in the background. Now, in my previous video, I said that you know, the fellow that took the pictures, a fireman, he's also a photographer. He's taken home some protective clothing. He's got his wife to put the protective clothing on, the top part of it anyway. So to say he could deliberately take this photograph. She's leaning because he's saying left a bit, right a bit, because he wants the bottom of her obscured by the child's head because, you know, she's wearing a dress. And something I never noticed when I looked at this image, and that is that, as I said, we've only got, as far as I know, we've never seen a report from Kodak saying this is all. And this is whatever's on this image, whatever's in this image was on the original negative. Because if you look very closely, look at the cloud line. Seems to go through her forehead, doesn't it? See that? I'll make that a little bit darker. No, that's the wrong way. Gotta love LCD. Haven't you? There you go. See that? Cloud line seems to go through her forehead, doesn't it? But regardless, whether it's a double exposure, whatever it is, it'd be interesting to see Ben explain that away. Cloud line. It's on all of the images I have checked. I haven't seen this image without this, so that would have been in Ben's presentation. So just put a line through it. It's obviously whether he got his wife to put the protective clothing on and stand behind and do that, or whether it's some sort of manipulated image with his wife wearing the protective clothing he's brought home from work because he was a fireman. It doesn't really matter. What does matter is that very obviously a staged fake cloud line through the forehead. And there's the missus behind wearing the top part of a protective clothing that a fireman would wear, and she's leaning to the left, she's leaning to the right, because he's saying left a bit and right a bit, because he wants to get the bottom of her obscured by the child's head, because she's wearing a dress. And chances are the spaceman would not be wearing a dress. Okay, just back to the comments, and here we have Ben looking at some comments regarding his Solway Spaceman.
For years I was intrigued by this
Presentation.
until you see the contrast of the picture taken down. You can clearly see there's a blue sleeveless dress. And other shots taken that day, as much as I love a bit of mystery, I can't see this being anything other than an overexposed person in the background. My sceptics side said they ran with the publicity and had their 15 minutes of fame. Yeah, I've seen it. I think I may have seen the
Yes, I think that's very much the case.
video you're linking me to. Unavailable. Okay, well, I don't think so, because for reasons I've explained. It was 3 shots, taken one after the other in close succession.
According to the guy that took the pictures.
And he was behind Jim the whole
According to the guy that took the pictures. There's no evidence of this at all.
time. I mean, I don't... The 15 minutes of fame... Why would Jim make up the story of the Men in Black?
Now, that is interesting. I'll show you a little bit from Wikipedia. Now, he hasn't actually made up a story about the Men in Black. He says 2 guys come to visit him afterwards and asked him about it. They wanted to go and see where this supposedly happened. He doesn't describe them as being dressed in black. He said they were only identified each other by numbers, and they had no ID, and he thought they were frauds. That's what the guy that took the picture said. There is no mention of Men in Black. 2 guys turned up to talk to him. He does not describe them as being dressed in black.
The concept of Men in Black didn't exist in culture in those days. I mean, this is something even back then it wasn't really understood by anyone.
Well, it was 1982, wasn't it, when Jake and Elwood first came on the scene?
I mean, John Keel was the first guy trying to get to grips with it. And that was not until, almost a decade later. So
yeah, put a line through the Men in Black nonsense. Government agents are not going to go around dressed like Jake and Elwood. They would attract all sorts of attention. This is just drivel. And again, the guy that took the photograph didn't describe the men that came to see him as being dressed in black.
So there's all kinds of mysteries. Also, the head is not right. If you look at pictures of Annie and her head.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the conspiracy business whose heads aren't right, funnily enough.
looks totally wrong. Right, artography says facing the Danes. You do sound like a truffle pig from time to time. That's on Facing the Danes. Yes, I know, and it's... Oh, well, there's some more comments here. I'll just carry on with things. I've told you why when I'm talking, I get this...
If I were you, Ben, I wouldn't have bothered responding to that one personally, but still, there we go.
Sniffle in my nose, I get coughs, I get yawns. It's just the way I am. Right, Steve Mumbling. A couple of things spring...
I love the Steve Mumbling voice.
Mind immediately with regards to Solway Spaceman. Oh, hang on, I know what it is. Steve did a video about this. Basically, I won't read it out. He's basically saying that Jim was a fireman, and what you see is someone wearing smoke hoods and a hazmat suit. Jim Templeton was a fireman, so he might have got one of these white coveralls.
That's exactly what happened.
Chemical spills and things from his fire station and got his wife to wear them, so it was obviously a staged fake. Steve, I actually got drunk the other night and I started putting comments on the video that Steve's talking about, which he made about this. You're completely wrong. Oh, I can't remember what I said in the comment. What did I say?
Yeah, there we go. So there's Ben offering a logical rebuttal. You're wrong. You're wrong. Hang on, let's just see what else he says.
Saying that in his video. Hang on. Have a look. All right, I'm going to have a look. Here we go. Oh, there's a video called Fleecing the Danes, which is all...
Well, his video was called Facing the Danes, you know, and I thought it was absolute rubbish from start to finish. Fanciful twaddle. And I thought, well, if they've paid a fee to go and see Ben speak, they've been fleeced. So I thought that Fleecing the Danes was an appropriate title for that one.
Apparently, here we go. All right, here we go. Oh, where is it? Okay. I've actually recorded an interview with Hang on, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I thought I'd blocked Bob Branning. How come I can see Bob?
Okay, he's gone off on a tangent now. He's going to start talking about Bob Branning. But you get the gist of that. You know, he's talking about the Solway Spaceman. He's speaking as though he knows some things as fact. He doesn't know that he doesn't know where Jim's wife was when he took those photographs. He doesn't know those photographs were taken in quick succession. There is no mention of the second daughter that was up there at the time. What does she say about this? Jim was a fireman. And I think it's very obviously a staged photograph. Oh yeah, and Jim Templeton, the guy that took the photograph, did not describe the two guys that went to see him as wearing black. So, don't know where the MIB came from. All right, I'll just show you a little bit from Wikipedia, and then we can just get on with the video. Here we are, back on trusty old Wikipedia, the Solway Spaceman, and even on the Wikipedia page, you can clearly see the cloud line extending through the child's forehead. How the hell didn't I see that before? I just do not know. But there it is. Anyway, let's go to the bit that I wanted to show you, which is down here in publicity. Okay, publicity. All right, from there. Templeton said that after the photograph was published, he was visited by two men who said they were from the government, who refused to show their identification, and that they, I'm reading this through the camera viewfinder, said they worked for the government and that they were only identified by a number, or by number. Yeah, okay. After taking the men to the site where the photos were taken, Templeton said that when he explained he had not seen the figure at the time, the men became angry and drove away, leaving him to walk home. In September 1964, Templeton dismissed the two men as frauds, saying it all looks like a leg pull to me. I'm sure the men were not security agents. Okay, so that's put a line through the Solway Spaceman. It's the picture is a deliberate fake, and you can forget all about the men in black. Even the guy that took the photograph says they're frauds and does not describe them as being dressed in black. Okay, on to the next clip. Okay, so we just moved along just a little bit to something else that I think is worth commenting on.
Right, where are we now? Okay, next one. Professor Fairs says, oh, here we go. With respect, you've said a number of times that you're not afraid to actually face people mano a mano, in the same space, breathing the same air, toe to toe, etc. Why are you not taking Steve up on his offer of an actual live, real-time discussion on Skype or something? Get this sorted out once and for all, guys. Okay.
Yeah, doing it on Skype is not actually face-to-face, really, is it? But it's a bit of a recurring theme in this video. Why don't you have a debate about it? And Ben says several times why he won't. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious why he won't, to be perfectly honest.
Professor Fetch, firstly, mano a mano is interesting, actually. It's what's known as a false friend. It's a Spanish phrase that people think means man to man.
I'm surprised he never said false flag there. You would have expected that, wouldn't you?
It doesn't. It means hand to hand. Now, the people you're referring to here, that to face people mano a mano in the same space, breathing the same air, toe to toe, etc. You're referring to a video I made called Confronting Droik, which you must have watched to have come up with that. You'll know that the people I made that video about are very, very different to Steve Mumbling. They're anonymous trolls. Steve is very, very different. Steve is somebody who's not afraid to put himself out there in reality and make videos and things like that. In a sense, a live real-time discussion with Steve, I find difficult now regarding some of the comments he's made.
Yeah, because they're a bit too logical, probably. I think that's the real reason that the comments that I've made. That the comments I've made are killing their arguments. That's the real reason they don't want to do it. And he's sort of focusing on this wood chipper comment and using that as an excuse. That's what's happening here.
And also, I would only do it if I think it would really achieve, it would make a big difference. That is a big difference in terms of it would add to the discussion we essentially already have had, which involves 3 videos on my part and probably a dozen on his. Are there any points we could actually deal with face to face that we actually have not already addressed within this video conversation?
Yes, there is actually, because on more than one occasion he's spoken about the question that was put to their panel, which went something like, if Japan or India went to the moon now and they sent back high definition images of the Apollo hardware on the surface just as the Americans left it, what would be our position then? And Ben, and then Scott Henderson says, well, the inverse square law would prohibit that. And I said, well, it'd be interesting to see Scott Henderson explain that, because we get high definition images from the moon, from Changi 3, from Mars, whatever, and further out in the solar system. And Ben always says, we've never seen moving images from Mars, we've never seen video images from further out, and that's nothing whatsoever to do with it. The question was high definition images from the moon of the Apollo hardware. And on 2 or 3 occasions Ben has gone down this video path. No one's talking about video, they're talking about high definition images. So I could, if we were face to face, I could say, wait a minute, Ben, we're not talking about video here, we're talking about still images, high definition images. And it would be good to get on a panel with Scott Henderson, because I could say, could you explain to us exactly how the inverse square law would prohibit those images getting from the moon to Earth, Scott? Perfectly civil question, isn't it? Why doesn't it prohibit the high-definition images from Changi 3 that's on the moon getting to the Earth? Why doesn't it prevent the high-definition images from Mars, from Curiosity, getting to Earth? Why doesn't the inverse square law prohibit them, yet would prohibit high-definition images of the Apollo hardware on the lunar surface? That's a perfectly civil question, isn't it? Just as I would ask Marcus Allen why he would make a comment like Werner von Braun and co. with the Germans that got America to the moon if he believes that it's all rubbish and it never happened and they never went to the moon. I think that's a perfectly civil question, isn't it? Where does he get the idea that the amateur radio operators were listening to the S-band downlink rather than the VHF high-band comms? Where does he get the idea that amateur radio operators only operate on long wave? There's a lot of ludicrous nonsense, sprouted by these people, and they can just hide because they're all together on their little backslapping panel. They can talk rubbish and congratulate each other on the ridiculous comments they're making, because no one's sitting there to say, "Wait a minute, are you seriously suggesting this?" Or how now when it comes to the technical aspects of it, they're saying the lunar module's only got 4 kilowatts. They don't understand how you could get television pictures back from the moon using a 20-watt transmitter. They don't understand it, and they could be challenged on that sort of thing. But anyway, that would be the point of doing it, Ben.
Do you see what I mean? And Steve Mumling says, anytime, Ben. One caveat, no Colin. Listening to that fool is like having somebody boring holes in my head. I wasn't joking about the wood chipper. All right, well, Steve, that is, I'm afraid, why I don't really want to speak to you on Skype, I'm afraid.
No, it isn't, and I don't think the viewers would fall for that either, Ben. I think we all know why, the real reason why you would not want to do that. All right, well let's just see what else we can find. Yeah, I stopped that a little early actually because it's worth just including this bit here.
Matters not regarding the moon landings, but that's going too far. What you said, it really was. Professor Fez says, "Need a moderator, Steve." Well, Fez, look, I appreciate the offer, and I respect your motivation here. I really do. But I think really, Steve and I essentially have debated the moon landing already. In a way which would nothing would be added by us simply doing a Skype conversation. Nothing.
Yeah, this is because he knows that he's getting killed in this Apollo moon landing argument. That's why he doesn't want to know anything about it. That's why he's not going to do another Apollo moon landing response video to any video that I might do. And there will be one or two coming up, I suspect, because Ben has said that there's going to be another Apollo detectives video. As the Apollo landings are very obviously historical fact, it should be very easy to poke it full of holes and show yet again that these people are completely bloody clueless. So I'm quite looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to a good laugh looking at the new Apollo detectives video. And apparently they're going to do one on Apollo 13. Well, that's going to get a mention in it as well, because Neil Peel feels that they could not possibly have got back from the moon with only 12 amps. That's almost verbatim, I think, what he said. So shows the little understanding that Neil Peel has of the technical aspects of the mission. So whether he's got this impression from watching the movie Apollo 13 or whether he's actually looked at the NASA Apollo 13 report, we shall have to wait and see. But sure as eggs are eggs, if I'm going to comment on it, I will read the NASA report. Okay, so there's anything else here?
It's all. And to be honest, I'm getting tired of talking to Steve about moon landings. I really am. I mean, I just...
Yeah, because he had such difficulty responding to the last one. He was all over the place, and I suspect behind the scenes they've actually said to him, "Don't engage this guy, Ben. We are getting killed. We're getting killed here. Don't engage him."
Still watch his videos on the subject. I'm getting tired. I want to move on to another subject. When it comes to Steve,
does he look like? Yes, that's not the face of a winner, is it? he knows he knows he's lost. He knows that the arguments that I put forward are too logical. They make sense, and he doesn't like that.
I want to move on to another subject now, and I think it'll probably be Bob Lazar. I think I might do a reply video.
Bob Lazar, obvious fraud. Might be interesting to see what Ben's got to say about him, but yeah, Lazar is a fantasist, a technician, not a physicist. Yeah, put a line through Bob Lazar
on his Bob Lazar videos, but. Thanks for the offer. I appreciate the offer. Okay.
That's the offer of Professor Fez to be a moderator. Of course, that's not the offer of me saying let's have a chat. Okay, I think that's pretty much done that.
Jim Jones says I'll reply to comments 20.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, maybe there'll be another clip to follow. Okay, I found another bit here where Ben's going to tell us that these technical wizards are going to be looking at the Apollo 13 mission in their upcoming Apollo Detectives video.
Says, I've been wondering on the Apollo 13 story, they had to travel from Earth to the Moon and then back on about 12 amps of power in the LEM only for a fraction of the fuel, which would have been their landing fuel only. Does that mean, in theory, you can send men to the Moon and orbit and back and not land on only 12 amps and a few gallons of gas? Seems like they saved some money there. Also, they got their green shield stamps, which were popular at the time. That's a good point, actually, Neil. Maybe we can discuss that in the new video we're going to be making soon. There is going to be another video in this series.
I could hardly wait.
Ronald Mead says, in a way, that is what they did. They was basically in the dark and no heat on the journey back, so it was not a pleasant ride. All right.
He's seen the film as well. So yes, I'm now waiting with anticipation. I think it's going to be a hoot, this new Apollo Detectives video. I shall make sure I've got some popcorn in and some chunky digestives, and I shall no doubt be making a video about that one. Yes, looking forward to that. All right, well I think that'll do. I don't have a great deal of time today, so just a very quick video. Just to pick a couple of points up there. If you've struggled through the video all the way to here, as always, thank you very much indeed for your perseverance, and perhaps I'll catch you again.